Hello, cupcakes. This video is going to be a little bit different. I'm going to probably talk a little bit more than usual. I'm looking to kind of talk about something that I feel like I don't see a lot of. And so I'm going to be talking about things I've learned in my first year of competitive cosplay or like cosplay competitions. There are so many videos of like masters like talking about like, things you should know, and here's things that aren't commonly talked about. But I feel like a lot of it, it stems from a master's point of view. So like I feel like they forget little details because it's just so second nature for them. So I'm going to break down, at least for me, some of the things that I really want to highlight as kind of important if you want to get into competitive cosplay. It's very different than, just cosplaying on Instagram or TikTok or just going to conventions in general. It's a very different experience that I feel like it's just not widely known how to get your foot in the door. So from a newbie to hopefully another newbie, I just want to talk about some of those things that I've personally experienced that hopefully others will find helpful and make the doorway into getting into competing easier for those who haven't before or haven't been to very many. And again, not that I'm super experienced, but I've learned a couple of things so far. Before I ever competed, I've spent a lot of time watching some of those like videos on TikTok, and they'll talk about like build books and just like the competitive scene, and a lot about like judging and how to act online after a competition, because some people do not take things well. Always be a good sport. Let's not be silly about things, okay? And let's definitely never talk bad about the judges, the convention, or the winners afterwards. If somebody won, they deserve to, whether you understand why they did or not, okay? Even with a lot of prep, I still walked into my first competition like super nervous and like half prepared. One thing you'll always hear about is, again, the build books. Depending on the con you compete at, you may not need one as a beginner or a novice. Those words will be used interchangeably, but it definitely doesn't hurt to have one. It helps prove that you are the one who made the costume, and then like the steps you took to do it, which is always nice. But starting out, I wasn't really sure what that meant or what judges wanted to see in that piece. My first one, I just showed a folder I had on my cell phone that was just like, here's some pictures I took, and it was kind of silly that I did it that way, but I didn't know any better. But luckily it was a really small con, so the judges just like took my phone and didn't really care to just kind of flip through and just ask me questions about stuff. And it's by no means hurt you to tell the judges that you're new to the judging scene and that you like, oh, I've never been in a judging room, or this is only my like second time, I don't really know what to talk about. A nice judge will help guide you. There's only been like one time where like they were like, just talk to us, go. And I was like, what do I do? In general, they'll always be like, okay, well, let's start from top to bottom, or here's my questions, and then you just tell me other things that you think are really important, or like your favorite part or something like that. But reading each con's rules for the competition is really important, because they may want you to print it out, send them a link to a Google Drive, or put it into like a presentation. You want the judges to be able to see your work up close and explained out, because you only get a couple of minutes in the judging room, so you are always going to forget to say something. I've heard some people bring little flashcards just to make sure, even if they're nervous, they really bring up those things that are important to them or that they really, really want to bring up. Like the last competition I was at, I love the wig. There aren't a lot of parts of my outfit that I absolutely love, but I loved my wig. And then I was so nervous in the judging room because it was also 8 o'clock at night. Actually, I think it was like 8:30 or something, but still, it was pretty late in the day after a full day of being at the convention on a Friday. And so like, I'm tired, I'm nervous, I'm anxious, and I just completely forgot. did not mention it in the slightest. So they never looked at it. Like, it was a page in my build book, but it wasn't, like, explained out or anything. So when I was at the feedback panel later, on Sunday morning, they were like, yeah, I had no idea. I didn't even see your wig. And I was like, oh, that's okay. It's not like I worked hard. It's okay. But, you know, that's something that if I had maybe brought some cue cards or something, or, like, you know, mentally prepared myself, I could have talked more about it, because that is one of my favorite things, and I just messed it up. But you want the judges to be able to see your work up close and explained out, but you don't want to put too much text into your build book. It should be mainly photos and then just words to help explain things that aren't clear in photos. But a good judge would know most of these techniques, like, by sight. So just trust the fact that they know things, but also don't trust that you take the best photos and that everything is super obvious what you did, because it won't be. So a lot of multitasking is going to be going on in that judging room. As of my current understanding of build books, this is the setup I'm using for SakuraCon, which just recently passed. I did record this, or write this script originally before SakuraCon. My audio was super messed up. I was super disappointed with it. So now we get after SakuraCon. So some of the things are me talking as if I haven't been there, but I have now. So it'll be a little bit of a mixture of both of those kind of things going on. But I'm going to use that build book as my example, and I can even talk about how I should have improved it after getting some feedback from the panel, from the judges at the feedback panel. So if you ever make changes to a character, talk about why you did that. Sometimes they're not going to want you to be 100% accurate if you have a good reason why you weren't 100% accurate, like, to the character. Like, for example, back on my wig. I love using, like, afro hairstyles and, like, curly cosplays and that kind of stuff. So there's a story with why I changed her wig from being, like, you know, just these, like, straight hairs and a drill, why I used braids and that kind of stuff, and why it was important for me to do that, to, like, really bring myself and my love of that character into this cosplay. So, like, changes aren't bad. Changes really show you and your personality, and you want that to come across. It shows not just, oh, I can build a thing, but I can really show that love and passion. And people love to see love and passion for a character. But in your build book, never be negative. Turn everything, even mistakes, into a positive. You know, be like, oh, you know, I really struggled making this piece, but it taught me XYZ skills. Or, you know, you never want to just be like, oh, well, that was too hard, so I just did this other thing instead. You know, for a future project, we and my dance group are going to be making the Love Live Bubble Rise set. And I stared at this for days, trying to figure out the best way to get this, like, yellow to lavender ombre effect. Because I'm like, do I really want to completely dye fabric? Do I really want to, like, figure out what dye is going to be good for this, like, really silky fabric that I want to use? Because, again, I'm not super experienced. I have tried to dye fabric that came out so fucking blotchy because I was using the wrong kind of dye. But these are things that only come with, like, experience. Well, I guess a couple of Google searches would help, but sometimes I thrift fabrics and that kind of stuff, and so I don't have tags to tell me what material it's made out of. So without being told, I have no idea what certain fabrics are. So something like that, for example, if your stuff comes out blotchy, be like, you know, it took a lot of trial and error, but I was able to figure out a good way to bleach to dye this fabric. So that's taking, like, a negative thing and turning it into a positive, showing that you, like, improved and learned a skill, or you came up with a new way around it. So, because I don't want to mess with dyeing a bunch of these different fabrics to get this multi-tone, and I'm worried about it being blotchy, where the yellow and the purple are going to meet. What I could change it, but so far my idea is to just do it all in the lavender fabric, and then I'm going to layer some yellow, some type of sheer fabric on top, and then I'm going to put a bunch of rhinestones on it where the yellow and purple meet, especially going to get like heavier on the rhinestones as it goes down, so that way it like creates that illusion of a ombre effect, and it's also adding some of my personality and stuff in there by adding some of that glitter and rhinestones and bedazzlement, which it's an idol outfit. Idols are glittery and sparkly. It just makes sense. So it's just always finding a way to turn anything that is like negative, being like, oh, this is hard for me, turning it into a skill or for some reason why you did what you did. And if you're doing a costume that only has like one photo that exists of it, maybe it was like a special collab, just a cover art, but man, did you love this character in this particular outfit. Maybe it's a card from a game, you know? They might not always like exist from multiple angles for you to get every side reference or whatever. And so maybe half the outfit you had to just come up with, how would the rest of this look on a real 3D person? Let the judges know that you did this. So then it's not just, oh, I took this character. You did the steps of making a design. You like designed an entire outfit almost. Let them know that, because that is a skill. Like, it's hard to do. If you don't come in with like note cards and that kind of stuff to the judges room, please rehearse. I try my best to do that, but then I always get so nervous. But I have seen some of my friends that are like master level cosplayers, and I've seen them around the con just like walking around rehearsing their thing in like a corner of the hallway of the hotel, and I'm just like, oh wow, you're working so hard. And I was at that competition, and when they were on stage, boy, did they just nail it. I even messaged them later. I was like, you did deserve that win so hard. Like, you were practicing so hard. Like, I saw you and I wanted to be like, oh my god, let me go say hi to my friend. But I was like, I could see you were locked in, and you blew me away. Like, I was in the audience and I could just feel that energy that you tried so hard and you nailed it. So like, the more you rehearse, the more comfortable you're gonna be when you get on stage. And even if, like, say you don't win a certain competition, you're one step closer and one more step more confident to get up on that stage again and do a little better the next time. After my first cosplay competition, one question that I'm always prepared for now is, what is your favorite part of a costume? Because you should be ready with a few points, but definitely, what's your favorite part? Because that's going to be the part you're most excited to talk about. Or also something you learned in this process. They're always going to ask, like, what skills did you use? What skills did you learn? Because they don't want to just see that, oh, well, I know how to sew, and so I just sewed. Yeah, that's great, and you can show a mastery of sewing, but they want to show that you're exceeding that. You're not just, like, you know, living in your comfort zone. So that way you are pushing yourself, because that's what truly, you know, sets people apart in the cosplay competition world, is really like pushing yourself every time to try new skills, try new materials, and just, you know, keep taking it up a level every time you do something. So another thing, it's not mandatory, but makeup. So a couple of judges have pointed out my makeup before. Except for Sakura was the only time I did not do my makeup to go to the judges' room. So it has been pointed out to me a couple of times. They're always like, oh my god, it's so glittery, it's this. Like, I see how it, like, intertwines with your outfit. And I never really thought about that the makeup was a part of my cosplay. It was just something I do when I cosplay. So for my next piece, I am making the point to add into my build book a part where I talk about, like, my trial makeup, because usually I don't trial it. I just, whatever I was feeling that day and thought was cute for my costume. It's the same thing I do with any of my, like, idol performances. I don't have, like, a set, oh, I do this makeup with this character. I'm just like, oh, I'm wearing aquarium, I'm gonna put bubbles on my face because I don't want to draw like fish. So I never really had like a set, I'm going to do my makeup XYZ way. So I never really thought about that is a part of the costume, and again goes back into my personality and how I enjoy bedazzling and adding gemstones to my wig. I like, doing my makeup big and like glittery and that kind of stuff. And if my outfit is big and glittery as well, it all just comes together. If you're going to learn a new skill, do it well so that it shows you actually learned and mastered that skill, instead of don't just try a new skill to try it, because then it kind of shows that you kind of half-assed it. Something I've been told is that I definitely need to work on making mock-ups, but I never want to just like waste fabric testing different things, and that's something I need to get over, because like, oh, especially if I'm hand sewing or something, I'm like, oh, it takes so much work, it's so hard. It's like I'd rather just throw it onto the machine and just do it. But if, say, I throw it onto the machine and it gets snagged, I made a mistake, or I wasn't sewing straight, whatever it may be, if I take a seam ripper to that, now there's a bunch of holes in my fabric. Some judges have said if you're like a beginner or novice, they're going to let some of those things go. But if you're like intermediate or master and they see a bunch of little holes near your seam, they're noticing that. So if I say I did a mock-up before I just straight did it, and then I was like, oh, I didn't like it, let me just take it apart, it would have avoided some of those little errors. So judges are just like any other cosplayer, so they're all different, and there's no right or wrong way to judge, there's no right or wrong way to cosplay. Okay, there's some wrong ways, but that's not what we're talking about. So some things won't be consistent from every con you go to or between judges at the same convention. I was at one feedback panel where one judge said, I love when people get up on stage for a skit and they get up there and dance, and I can tell that it was well rehearsed. And then the very next judge goes, oh, I hate when there's a dance. There needs to be something else to it. And so it was just like, okay, you can't please everybody. And so you can't, like, try to. You're gonna burn yourself out trying to be like, oh, well, so-and-so doesn't like a dance, but so-and-so does. There's literally polar opposites. Don't burn yourself out trying to please everyone. Do what you want to do when you get on stage. There are some cons that don't let you just get up there and dance or whatever. Then abide by the con's rules. But if it fits within the con's guidelines, do whatever you want up on that stage that's going to make you the happiest, you shine the brightest, and show off the thing you worked on. But something I have heard just about from every judge that they love, pockets. If your outfit has pockets, they love that, because then it's more practical as an outfit. Or like turning, say your character has like a plushie or something as a prop, make that also your purse or something for the day, your backpack. If you're able to make something that's just a part of your character into something practical, and it's just huge bonus points. I've heard on stage where they announce somebody and they're like, actually, this dress has pockets, guys. Like, you can't tell, but like, that's big enough to hold your Nintendo Switch. And it's like, you know what? Hilarious. But also, you're right. In some big bulky cosplays, do you really want to be carrying your backpack or trying to hold all your stuff, or do you just want to slip your phone and your wallet into your pocket? Judges also love interesting or odd material choices, like repurposed or recycled material are a huge deal. Another cosplay contest I was at, somebody, instead of just using like gold, like spray paint or paint in general, they laid out like gold flakes over every single like coin that they had as part of their outfit. And the judges made a point to let everyone know, because those are things you're only going to see in those build books or in the judging room. The audience at the cosplay contest isn't going to see that or know that it's anything different because they're too far away. So I love when the judges make a point to be like, here's a little detail that you guys wouldn't know about. But yeah, being in character on stage or while walking is really, really big. It can be hard for niche characters if you have a passion for them, for it to be conveyed properly. If it's not, oh, it's the guy from Chainsaw Man, everybody loves and knows that show right now. If you pick something from a 1990 fucking anime that, isn't very common with the newer, like, fan base of, con-goers, you're not going to get that same, like, huge rise of energy. So you need to bring it to that character and, convey that love of that character and why you're there. I have, for that same reason, though, began putting a character description in my build book to clarify some of those personality traits and that kind of stuff. Just so it also kind of saves me a little bit of time in the judging room where I don't have to be like, oh, well, this character is timid or this character is really energetic and XYZ, when I could just put in the build book, be like, oh, this is a more mature character, or this character is crazy. I don't know. So I began adding that as a character trait, so that way when I'm up on stage and I'm trying my best to convey that character, I don't have to feel like, oh, nobody gets what I'm doing. But I've also only been to one cosplay competition where you got to choose your own audio. So I feel like in that case, it was a lot easier because you could hear the character and, like, I mixed music in with it. So it was like you could really hear, the feelings and the things I was trying to portray. I'll see if I end up putting the video here. Just because it wasn't the best. My crown fell off. It was a little heavy. It wasn't my best showcase or whatever, but, every time up on stage is a little more practice being in front of people, and sometimes that's my only goal, is to get more comfortable walking the stage. But every other convention I've been to, I did not have any choice in the audio that was being played. It was a surprise for me the second I'm up there, or it's just been general pop music that's been going the, like, whole time. So then it's like, oh, okay, it's the same vibe for everyone. So I don't really know what to expect when it comes to the audio, unless they specifically say you choose your audio and then you have to, like, put it together and submit it and that kind of stuff. Otherwise, be prepared for anything. And it's easier when you're prepared for anything to not be surprised and not let it throw you off. Okay. When it comes to making your cosplay, make everything, or at least as most as you can, and use different materials when you do it. Like, people love to see more than just cotton fabric. They want to see, like, EVA foam and leather if you know how to work with that. If you know how to work with metal, go crazy, all those different materials. And they don't want to just see, oh, well, I know how to sew, so here's a bunch of fabric. That can be gorgeous, that can be beautiful, but they want that mix-up of things. And it's like, even if, say, it is an outfit that doesn't make sense to have armor and foam and stuff on it, how can we maybe add some resin to it? Or, like I said, maybe some pleather and that kind of stuff, or make some kind of borders that really, like, level up that cosplay and that kind of stuff. Adding lights. Little things that you can do to just make it more than just one simple thing. Another thing on tiny details that judges love, when it comes to being able to show off really in-depth sewing techniques. I personally am really bad with proper names of sewing techniques. So that's something I can personally do a little more research on, is naming the different techniques and that kind of stuff. But that's not something that someone in the audience is going to see. That's just for the judging room. So they'll care about, like, what techniques did you do? Is your outfit, like, historically accurate? I was at a con where they went in depth when giving an award to talk about, my apologies if I'm incorrect, it's been a little while, but I believe it was her kimono, and it's supposed to have a gap in the back of the neck. And the judges made a point to call out the gap in the back of the neck. They were like, yeah, you really took your time to research the culture and the impact and why it's supposed to be like this, and you portrayed that very well. I had no idea. That was me learning something right then and there. I had no idea. And it's like, that was awesome to just be sitting there in the audience and then be like, wow, I don't even think I ever noticed that. And actually, I wasn't even just in the audience. I was in the green room with them. And I was like, I don't think I noticed that or knew that was impactful until the judges pointed it out, because I haven't done research on kimonos and that kind of stuff. But those are things that they care about. Judges are paying attention to that. And it's like, back on the weird use of materials and that kind of stuff. And it's like, for one costume, I needed a cage shape, like for my UFO dress. So I actually like sewed in a hula hoop to my like cage, so that way I forced my dress to stay out in a little like circle-y shape. Someone else has used a lampshade for like a really tall collar on their neck. And again, I would have no idea if the judges didn't take the time to point it out. Be like, we're giving this person an award for just the crazy use of material. And I just think those kind of things are amazing. Like, there was from My Hero, like a best genus, and they were like, yeah, this is 100% recycled denim. And it's crazy to think about, because I couldn't see, like, you know, a clear, like, stitching of just, like, a bunch of little jeans put together or something like that. So being able to recycle material in a clean fashion, insanely impressive. Some things that I have noticed that judges kind of hate, obviously don't lie. If you did not make part of an outfit, never claim that you made it. If it was bought or commissioned, say that. And if it's commissioned or anything like that, say where you got it from. Oh my god. I hope I can cut that out. Sometimes, you know, depending on your skill level and everything, you have to make certain percentages of what you do. So as a beginner, you definitely are allowed to, like, you know, commission some pieces, streetwear, just alter things that you've already bought and that kind of stuff. It just depends on each con, the level and percentage that you have to upgrade or whatever. But as long as you are very clear that, like, oh, like for my Mia Taylor dress, I bought the dress itself and then I added all the buttons and the lines, and I bought the hat, but I added the trim and the little, I don't know, tassel. And then I made the cape and stuff myself. As long as you are very clear on the things that you did and did not make, that's great. Because say you lied and you got an award, if they find out about that later, because social media does go crazy, so especially if, say, the person you commissioned saw that you won a cosplay competition based on something that they made, and they can prove that they made it and you bought it, you could be blacklisted. Like, you can be not allowed to compete ever again. And unless that's your goal, I assume most people don't want that to happen to them. But you aren't even judged on pieces that you didn't make, so don't take credit on it, and then you're only judged on the things that you did make. And beginners can be as low at some cons as like 50 or 25% that you have to make, so you don't even have to do that much for you to be going and like taking credit for things that you didn't do. And that also helps you don't have to put pressure on yourself to make every little detail in every single piece, because you don't have to do all that. You can really work within your skill level instead of putting like immense pressure on yourself to, you know, blow everybody out of the water. You're a beginner and you can let yourself be a beginner. But another thing is, don't lie about what category you are in. Outlines are pretty well listed on most cons websites before the like application for the cosplay contest. And it'll tell you pretty well like where you should be level wise. And then if you are unclear, there's almost always an email that you can like contact and be like, hey, I'm unsure. Here's my where I'm sitting at with my qualifications or whatever. Which category should I apply under? Most cons will respond pretty nicely to you. I've only had to do that one time because it was like right after my first cosplay competition, and lucky or unlucky for me, I did win a Best Novice award, but it was a very small con, and I mean like 20 people walking the stage in total, and I think maybe like 5 or 6 were in the beginner category, and like I think 3 or 4 of them were in a group together. So there wasn't a lot of people to begin with, you know? So me being somebody who took it upon myself to make my entire outfit from scratch by hand sewing, because at this point I did not own a sewing machine. While these judges did love the fact that I hand sewed, the very next competition I was at hated the fact that I was hand sewing. So it was like, okay, polar opposite responses. But because I won at this competition, most cons don't let me compete as a beginner. Even though in my heart, I still feel like a beginner. I'm very inexperienced. I have to compete as an intermediate or journeyman, depending on the con you go to. They'll call it different things. But there's even some cons that are, like, if they're really, really small, I have to compete as a master. So it's like, at those cons, I'm not expecting anything. I just want to get up on stage, show my love of this character, and practice being up on stage. And that's okay. You really shouldn't go in with a I'm gonna win mentality. You could come in with an amazing outfit and you worked immaculately hard on, and it's just fantastic, and it's just because somebody else showed up with an also immaculate outfit to the same con that you didn't win. And it could just be like by a hair. Like, there was one, I was in the feedback panel room, and somebody was like, what can I do better, blah, 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 blah. And they were like, literally, the only difference between you and, like, you winning first Masters and the best in show was their prop. Their prop was just a little bit cleaner than yours. And it was like, that was it. So that means all the sewing, all the wig work, all of it. They were like, yeah, both just 10 out of 10 blew us out of the water. But it was like, oh, we had to find something to set them apart, and that was the little detail that did. So you don't have to be hard on yourself. It can be just those tiny, tiny little details that set people apart. But back on what category you should be in, it can also be like things that are impacting it are like your job. If you sew or anything like that, or do metal work and then you're making chainmail and that kind of stuff, that does impact your level as a cosplay competition. If, say, I make dresses and stuff for a living and I work in like a factory and I'm sewing or whatever, if I spend more than like 40 hours a week sewing, they have to bump you up just because of the fact that technically you are a professional, so you competing at a beginner level isn't fair to be doing it. Some cons will have rules about, oh, if you've made more than like 5 outfits, you can't compete as a beginner. That doesn't mean you won with any of them, but if you have made more than 5 outfits, you can't be a beginner. And those are a little bit harder to prove, say, if you just sew and make shirts and that kind of stuff at home. But if you post on your social media, it's like, oh, I made this outfit, and then I made this outfit. Those are trackable things. So, again, with the honesty, do not lie. Other things that judges hate is if your thread does not match your fabric. When it comes to, like, the colors. So don't, have a pink thread on a yellow skirt. Unless there's, like, a reason that you're doing it and it makes sense for your character. If your skirt is yellow, your thread should be yellow. It should not be seen. Just don't like to even see your threading to begin with. So definitely having like a neon pink on that yellow makes it stand out more. But they should be flipping your seams and that kind of stuff, and they'll look underneath it to see, you know, oh, it might look good on the outside, but if I, you know, flip the bottom of your skirt, like, are there a bunch of snags and a bunch of, like, balls of thread because it got all tangled in your machine? They are looking for those things. It shouldn't just look good from the outside, but the inside as well. This one heavily depends on the judge you get. Unless you can make hand sewing work for your character, try to not hand sew, or if you are hand sewing, there are some like guides you can use and measure out your seams and your stitches, so that way they're even, so it's not as obvious that it's hand sewing, unless you're doing like a character like Princess Mononoke or somebody like that, who like, that character would have no access to a sewing machine. So it actually makes sense for it to be hand sewn, or however you put it together in a different way. But unless you can make it make sense for your character, try to use like a sewing machine and that kind of stuff, or some of those techniques to compensate for the fact that you don't have one. Because I understand having a sewing machine, embroidery machine, a serger, those aren't those are not cheap to have. So if you don't have them and you want an alternative, learn the skills fully to compensate for the fact that you don't have one. So another big thing is being on stage. Do not rush. All the lights, the loud music, all the eyes on you, it's definitely a lot. But it's always super obvious if somebody is like uncomfortable or a beginner by like how quickly they are running off stage. I'm like an idol performer, and I'm up on stage in front of people pretty frequently, and I'm, you know, dancing and that kind of stuff, and even I just bolted my first time I was on stage. I was not up there very long. My husband said that they hardly had enough time to pull out the camera before I was just already gone. But I was nervous and I didn't know what to do, and like 30 seconds doesn't sound like a long time, but when you're on stage, oh my god, does it feel like years. So you just have to prepare yourself for that. For me at SoccerCon, it was a little bit easier to pace myself because I had my own audio cues. So I was like, I'm waiting for like the music to change. I'm waiting for my character to say this. So like, I'm waiting to hit those cue points so that way I can do whatever action. And so that forced me to be on stage longer. But in general, it can be really hard to tell how long you should be out there. So honestly, I think it's better for the music to like fade out and they're like, get off the fucking stage, girl, than for me to have just like bolted off, because that meant I was up there, I was doing my thing, I was having fun, so much fun that I went over my time. But while I did run on my first time being on stage, my second time, because I know how fast I ran off stage, I made a point to like hold my poses, and then I was like, I'm just gonna hold this pose and count to myself in my head, and I was like 1, 2, 3, and so that way I was at least standing in a spot long enough for my husband to get a good photo. And then it wasn't until like my third time where I actually had more of a plan. I'll be like, I'm gonna do this action until I hit my pose. Be like, oh, I'm in a UFO dress, let me spin around in a circle and be silly. Oh, they happen to pick idol music, which I wasn't prepared for, but I know how to sidestep. I'm an idol. So it's like, oh, really just get into it. Strike your next pose. Smile. I even had some of my outfit, like the skirt like flipped or whatever when I did a jump. You know what you do? You don't react to it. I'm obviously, if you're uncomfortable, deal with it. But I made a point to wear my safety shorts and all that good shit. So even though my skirt kind of had a little mishap, it was okay. I'm going to hold my pose. I'm going to count. And while I go to walk to my next pose, I will deal with it then. But having those like moments and planning out your poses and how you're going to act in between them It helps you stay on stage longer and helps show some of that confidence. But I can't just, talk you into being confident with yourself. It's hard. It takes time. And that's why if you put all that love and passion into an outfit, it'll just get easier and easier for you to be like, no, I'm so happy in this outfit. I'm going to walk around con all day in it. And that's my next step, is I want to get so happy and confident with my work that I don't just change into it like a couple hours before the cosplay competition and then, oh, I'm really hot or whatever, I was really stressed and now I'm going to take it off. I want to hit that confidence level where I walked around all Saturday in that outfit or whatever it has been, and I'm not worried about something falling off or something not going right. But yeah. Sometimes it also helps that the lights are so bright that you can't even see the crowd. Be careful not to like just walk off stage. Be safe. But that'll also help with just, staying on stage. Is if you can't see anybody, there's nothing to be nervous about, because you can convince yourself no one's even there. Yeah. Also, like I said, having a plan helps so much. But that also comes down to knowing your con. So some of them, they'll just tell you, go on stage, do whatever, you got 30 seconds. And that's that. Some are really hard on here's 3 points on the stage to hit, stand on this point, move to number 2, move to number 3, get off the stage. And then others, like Soccer Con, you got to choose your own audio and everything, so it was, again, one of those, you have 30 seconds or 40 seconds, do whatever for that timeline. And then we didn't even know until we got there that it was like a catwalk type of stage instead of just like a rectangle. So it was my first time having a catwalk stage. So I wasn't prepared for that when I had planned out my actions on stage, and I even had a little script, because SoccerCon makes you like send them a script of, oh, I'm doing X, Y, Z. So then I was like, oh, I guess there's just more time to move around, but like definitely can't add in like turns and spins and that kind of stuff, because it was a pretty thin catwalk and I'm not about to fall off. But yeah, so that's also why going to the tech rehearsals and stuff, which most of the time are required, but that's why they're really important, because I know some people were like, yeah, I wasn't expecting a catwalk, so from 9 a.m. that morning until 4 o'clock that night, I was coming up with how I was changing my walk. So it's always important to know like where you're going and how it's going to be presented. Again, with every con is totally different. I do know that some cons don't even have like a skit category, because every single person who goes in for craftsmanship is doing a skit. So like everyone gets like a solid like minute or so on stage, and they have to do like a whole thing with it. And I think that one makes it a little scarier, because then it's not just, oh, I'm going on stage and I'm showing off my outfit. Like, everyone had like a whole skit like planned out, and it was crazy cool to watch. But I can only imagine the amount of preparation that takes, opposed to being some of those just walk-on kind of competitions. Right. So I'm about ready to wrap up now. So just some of the key points that I really want to talk about when it comes to cosplay competitions and that kind of stuff. Just don't go expecting to win. Of course, like, put your best foot forward, but you aren't the only one who put in a bunch of work and deserve to win either. If you win, great. That's awesome. If you don't, that's okay too. Fix some things up, get that feedback, and try again. Even best in show always has room to improve in some way. But don't be the next, like, TikTok loser that's, like, hating on someone for winning because you thought your piece of, was just so much better, or someone else's build was bigger, so why didn't the bigger outfit win? Like, you aren't in that judging room. There's a lot of details that you don't see from every single person. And you can make friends in the green room, and they'll talk about, here's the things I did and some different techniques. Ask people. Most people are really excited to talk about the things that they did. And I've seldomly met somebody in a green room that wasn't super, super nice. And I'm just sitting there as a little anxious ball in a corner most of the time. So, like, make those friends and learn new things. But just because you see something doesn't mean you see it all. So, you know, be happy for whoever wins. And if that's you, great. If it's not, just try again. But everyone who, you know, is there put work and pride into their build, and so should you. Be happy with yourself. Be proud of what you did. Everyone deserves that stage, and everyone deserves their time to shine. The difference between placements is so slim sometimes that, like, it always can just come down to who showed up that day. If somebody actually, like, drops that day because they were sick or whatever, that could have been the best in show, but because they weren't there, it's somebody else. Like, that it could just be the tiniest little thing and just who showed up. So every con's gonna be different with, like, you know, the skill levels and stuff that show up. Now being in the state of Colorado most of the time for competitions and such, I'm seeing a whole new skill level than things I was seeing in Nebraska. And it's kind of intimidating. It's crazy. And things in Nebraska over the years, like, technology has grown. It's also getting crazy. It's insane how rapidly the cosplay competitions have grown over the last few years. But at the end of the day, the only person you should truly be competing with is yourself. As long as you are improving, that should be your only goal. Everyone is here to learn and grow and shine. So while in a sense you're rivals with these people, you meet in the green room, they could also be your newest friend. Bounce ideas off of each other. Ask about each other's work. You may get new ideas. Like, I love asking other competitive cosplayers things, and especially if we're friends on social media, I'll DM them and be like, hey, you're putting your work in progress stories up. Like, did you do this? Or can I pick your brain about something? Because that looked really nice. I want to know more about these techniques and stuff you're using. And most people are excited to talk about things that they did or their wig work or whatever it is. They put love and pride into it. So if somebody noticed it, that's really cool. Like, one of my newer friends that I met in a green room had won a competition for, like, their armor. And we had actually been talking about it backstage because all of the little, like, bolts and stuff, quote unquote, were actually just, like, little googly eyes and that were painted over and everything. But without being told that those were googly eyes originally, no idea. And so, like, I took some, like, rhinestones and stuff when I made my crown, and I took some rhinestones and then spray painted the whole crown gold. So without being told that those are rhinestones, they don't look like them. They're just looks like little things that are just, like, on there, you know? And those are things I would never have thought of on my own. But everything is a learning experience, you know? And so don't let a prize deter you. I won that first competition I was at that really small con, and have gotten nothing else since then. And that's perfectly okay. I need the time to learn and grow and see other intermediates, and not be intimidated. And I have not hit that point yet where not even the master levels, just intermediates that are technically the same level as I am. And if I'm still like, oh wow, everything they do is crazy cool, and I don't feel that way about myself yet, I deserve to be where I am. I don't deserve to move up, and that's okay. I'm comfortable where I'm at. And I've heard some people spend like 5 to 7 years at the intermediate level, and that's nothing to be ashamed of. And that'll just make when and if you continue to compete, when you get to that master level, it'll just be that much sweeter. Like, I've seen some people when they win intermediate first place, and they're like, oh, you know, welcome to masters. I've seen people break down and pride because they have worked so hard for it. And just seeing that moment for people, it's so, like, my heart, you know? And one day I'm going to get there too, but I have so much to still learn, and I want to continue to learn until I, you know, get to that point. Not that you can't learn in masters, there's still plenty more to learn, but I have a lot of room to grow before I get there. And knowing that about yourself is going to be really important, to not getting super upset every time you go to a competition and, oh, I didn't win, or I didn't even get this, or whatever. It's okay to even, like, not be going for, you know, novice best in show. Maybe you're hoping for, like, a judge's choice or something, or, you know, best walk-on. You really show off that character when you're on stage. You can focus on little things and still have a goal in mind, but again, don't expect to win. There's anywhere from like 20 to like 60 people there, so your odds are pretty slim, but just work hard and do the best that you can do. And go to the feedback panels. Most cons will have that available generally the next day after the cosplay competition, so like Sunday mornings. And you can ask like specific questions or get one-on-ones depending on how it's set up and how many people show up to the feedback. If they have one-on-ones set up, ask them to record the conversation so that way you can listen back and don't have to remember everything that was said to you right then and there. I have a recording from just about every convention I was at that at least allowed one-on-ones. I didn't record the full, like, group rooms because I never had the chance to ask for permission to record and everything like that. And I never asked for permission to post them. I just asked to record for my own personal use. So, sorry, we're not getting any of those. But I will just say, I've gotten so many ideas from them. Like, an outfit I was going to just embroider, they were like, why don't you try EL wire? It shows a new skill, so it's not all just sewing. And I would never have thought about using these lights. I had never even heard of EL wire. But someone at a feedback panel told me to do that. And then at the next competition where I had done that, I walk into the room and it just goes, EL wire. And I was like, I hardly walked in the room. How do you know? And she was like, oh, I recognize the sound. I know what that sound sounds like. And I had actually made such a point to turn the brightness of my lights down low so that it wasn't humming as much. But like I said, a skilled judge they know. And so you have to just trust that they have the skills and they do know what they're talking about. And then listen back to those recordings later. You know, if you're working on your next piece, especially if you asked about your next piece specifically or how to improve this one. Like, I know for my mommy outfit, I need to work on the silhouette and that kind of stuff. A lot of the techniques I was using, because I'll watch videos on, like, YouTube and TikTok and everything about, like, different sewing skills. And I'm like, oh, I want to give that a try. I like the way that looked. It does matter what fabric you're using. So I was not using fabric that had stretch to it, but using skills that were meant for stretch fabric. And that's why it wasn't getting a nice look to it by the end of it. It was like, sure, the measurements were fine. It was clothing. It fit me. But it didn't have, like, a nice, like, silhouette to it. Because I was using more advanced skills, but I was using them in the wrong way. And I wouldn't have known that that was what was happening if I didn't go to that feedback panel. And it's like, again, judges know. Ask them questions. Or let them tell you what was a big thing for you. What did you really notice that was, like, that I can improve on? And they'll tell you. They might not always be the nicest about it, but they'll tell you what you need to improve on. And also some judges may not always have, like, ample amount of time. There's tons of people in that feedback room. Sometimes ask for their socials. Be like, would it be okay? Like, I see the room's really crowded. Do you mind if I, like, DM you later? Is that okay? Not every judge is going to be like, yeah, I'm going to answer questions about that, but some will. I've had 2 judges. One that told me, yeah, message me and I'll get in depth with you after the con. I'm really busy today and I have to, like, catch my flight and that kind of stuff. And I was like, that's great. There's a whole room of people. I'll just DM you later. And they did. A couple days later, I had like a whole paragraph of, here's some things I noticed, here's what went wrong. I even watched the video back, so I can tell you more in depth about your, like, stage walking. And I love the fact that she took the time to do all that with me. And another one who had recommended the EL wire and that kind of stuff, she was like, you can run any idea by me. I don't have shit going on. So it's like, DM me and just run ideas by me and I'll, like, bounce ideas back off of you. I love just talking about builds. So I've only done it once because I'm a nervous wreck. But it's the fact that she even opened that door for me. And I know it's like, oh my god, I'm so special. No, she's going to do that for other people too. So it's like, the worst case is you, like, try to reach out to a judge and they're like, I'm not going to do all that. But most of the time, they're pretty nice, sociable people and they enjoy what they're doing and they want to help. But don't expect them to help you. They are competitive cosplayers themselves, so they're busy working on their own builds. And they're not, like, full-time cosplayers and social media personnel. Like, they have lives and families and jobs to go to. Be kind, be grateful, and be patient with them. The fact that if they do and are willing to take time out of their day after the con to communicate with you and that kind of stuff, that is amazing, and be thankful for it, because not all judges will do that. I'm personally learning everything I can and working hard on builds to one day be a judge myself. I want to be like some of those masters I've seen and walk by and I can look at something and be like, I know what material was used here. I know what technique put this together. Like the, EL wire as soon as somebody walks in the room. I thought that was super cool. And they hardly, like, looked at me. They, like, just knew what was going on. And I want to be able to, like, recognize techniques and materials from a distance. I think that's an incredible skill to have, but that comes with time, experience, and hard work. It's not going to happen overnight, and no one should expect it to. So please, if you're going to take anything away from what I'm saying, at least compete for the right reasons, to have fun, and for your own self-improvement. If you go in for those things, anything else that you get out of the experience is just icing on the cake. It's just going to make it that much better if anything else is taken away. If you have questions, please feel free to comment them below. I'll do my best to answer or find out together. I'll do my best to respond to everyone that I can, but yeah, thanks for your time and listening to me ramble on. Please like and subscribe, and if you liked my ramble and stuck around the whole time, I appreciate you. Have a good day.